Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Where we're walking on a Chintamani stone brick road on the way to Goloka Vrindavan. And we're now entering into the 9th canto. We'll hear a lot of nice things in the 9th canto, and then we'll hear about the dynasty that led up to the appearance of Krishna and Balaram. So we have historical reference. The actual history of the universe is being manifest to us. Okay, and Srila Prabhupada is taking us by the hand and explaining to us what it means. Okay, Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotra by Srila Sanatana Goswami to help us along the way, help us go deeper into this transcendental literature. And it goes like this. Sarvastasya Dipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandodita Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostu Me. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bandho Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhutadayin achinichotata kada anamunchagada chinmam premnarit kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Okay, the canto is entitled Liberation. Of course, these titles of each canto, each canto contains everything. But the first canto, creation, second canto, the cosmic manifestation, third canto, the status quo, creation of the fourth order, the creative impetus, prescribed duties for mankind. These all give general directions of our progress through the Bhagavatam. But all the subject matters of the Bhagavatam are in all the cantos. Okay, so now liberation, kind of 9th chapter, number 9. It's last, and in numerology. So 9th canto is the last one in the material world before we go to Goloka Vrindavan. Okay. Chapter 1. King Sudyumna becomes a woman. Very interesting chapter. This chapter describes how Sudyumna became a woman and how the dynasty of Vaivasvatamanu was amalgamated with the Somabhangsha, the dynasty coming from the moon. By the desire of Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadev Goswami told about the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu, who was formerly King Satyavrata, the ruler of Dravida. While describing this dynasty, he also described how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, while lying down in the waters of devastation, gave birth to Lord Brahma from a lotus generated from his navel. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi was generated, and his son was Kashyapa. From Kashyapa, through Aditi, Vibhaswan was generated, and from Vibhaswan came Shadadev Manu, who was born from the womb of Samgya. Shadadeva's wife, Shraddha, gave birth to 10 sons, such as Ikshwaku and Nriga. Shradadeva, or Vaivasvata Manu, the father of Maharaj Ikshwaku, was sonless before Ikshwaku's birth. But by the grace of the great sage Vashishta, he performed a yajna to satisfy Mitra and Varuna. Then, although Vaivasvata Manu wanted a son, by the desire of his wife, he got a daughter named Ila. Manu, however, was not satisfied with the daughter. Consequently, for Manu's satisfaction, the great sage Vasishta prayed for Ila to be transformed into a boy, and his prayer was fulfilled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus Ila became a beautiful young man named Sudyumna. Once upon a time, Sudyumna went on a tour with his ministers. At the foot of the mountain Sumeru, there is a forest named Sukumara, and as soon as they entered that forest, they were all transformed into women. When Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami about the reason for this transformation, Shukadev Goswami described how Sudyumna, being transformed into a woman, accepted Buddha, the son of the moon. Seems like we have some trans people around here, even in the early days. Huh? The son of the moon, as her husband, and had a son. Let me read that again. When Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami about the reason for this transformation, Shukadev Goswami described how Sudyumna, being transformed into a woman, accepted Buddha, the son of the moon, as her husband, and had a son named Pururava. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Sudyumna received the benediction that he would live 1 month as a woman and 1 month as a man. Now there's an interesting combination. Thus he regained his kingdom and had 3 sons named Utkala, Gaya, and Vimala, who were all very, very religious. Thereafter, he entrusted his kingdom to Pururava and took the order of Vanaprastha life. Vedic culture concludes everything. Text 1. King Parikshit said, "My Lord, Shukadev Goswami, you have elaborately described all the periods of the various Manus, and within those periods, the wonderful activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has unlimited potency. I am fortunate to have heard all of this from you." Text 2 and 3. Satyavrata, the saintly king of Dravida Desh, who received spiritual knowledge at the end of the last millennium by the grace of the Supreme, later became Vaivasvata Manu, the son of Vivaswan, in the last Manvantara period of Manu. I have received this knowledge from you. I have also understood. I also understand that such kings as Ikshwaku were his sons, as you have already explained. Text 4. O greatly fortunate Shukadev Goswami, O great Brahmana, kindly describe to us separately the dynasties and characteristics of all those kings, for we are always eager to hear such topics from you. Text 5. Kindly tell us about the abilities of all the celebrated kings born in the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu, including those who have already passed, those who may appear in the future, and those who exist at present. Text 6. Sutta Goswami said, when Shukadev Goswami the greatest knower of religious principles, was thus requested by Maharaj Parikshit in the assembly of all the scholars, learned in Vedic knowledge. He then proceeded to speak. So there's Sutta Goswami over there speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya. There's different layers going on here. So Sutta Goswami is speaking to the sages, and he's telling them when Shukadev Goswami came to meet Maharaj Parikshit. That's here. This is in the forest of Naimisharanya. This is on the bank of the Yamuna, just outside Indraprastha. Text 7. Shukadev Goswami continued, O king, subduer of your enemies, now hear from me in great detail about the dynasty of Manu. I shall explain as much as possible, although one could not say everything about it, even in hundreds of years. Text 8. The transcendental Supreme Person, the super soul of all living entities who are in different statuses of life, high and low, existed at the end of the millennium, when neither this manifested cosmos nor anything else but Him existed. Purport. Taking the proper position from which to describe the dynasty of Manu, Shukadev Goswami begins by saying that when the entire world is inundated, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists, and nothing else. Shukadev Goswami will now describe how the Lord creates other things, one after another. Text 9. O King Parikshit, from the navel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was generated a golden lotus, on which the four-faced Brahma took his birth. Text 10. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi took birth, and from the semen of Marichi, Kashyapa appeared. By Kashyapa, from the womb of Aditi, the daughter of Daksha Maharaj, Vivaswan took birth. O king, best of the Bharat dynasty, from Vivaswan by the womb of Samgya, Shadadev Manu was born. Shadadev Manu, having conquered the senses, begot 10 sons in the womb of his wife Shadha. The names of these sons were Ikshvaku, Nriga, Shayati, Dishta, Drishta, Karushika, Narishanta, Vishadra, Nabaga, and Kavi. Text 13. Manu at first had no sons. Therefore, in order to get a son for him, the great saint Vashishta, who was very powerful in spiritual knowledge, performed a sacrifice to satisfy the demigods Mitra and Varuna. Text 14. During that sacrifice, Shadha, Manu's wife, who was observing the vow of subsisting only by drinking milk, approached the priest offering the sacrifice, offered obeisance to him, and begged for a daughter. Whoops. Text 15. Told by the chief priest, now offer oblations. The person in charge of oblations took clarified butter to offer. He then remembered the request of Manu's wife and performed the sacrifice while chanting the word Vashat. Text 16. Manu had begun that sacrifice for the sake of getting a son, but because the priest was diverted by the request of Manu's wife, a daughter named Ila was born. Upon seeing the daughter, Manu was not very satisfied. Thus he spoke to his guru, Vashishta, as follows. Purport. Because Manu had no issue, he was pleased at the birth of the child, even though a daughter, and gave her the name Ila. Later, however, he was not very satisfied to see the daughter instead of a son, because he had no issue. He was certainly very glad at the birth of Ila, but his pleasure was temporary. Text 17. My Lord, all of you are expert in chanting the Vedic mantras. How then has the result been opposite to the one desired? This is a matter for lamentation. There should not have been such a reversal of the results of the Vedic mantras. Purport. In this age, the performance of yajna has been forbidden because no one can properly chant the Vedic mantras. If Vedic mantras are chanted properly, the desire for which a sacrifice is performed must be successful. Therefore, the Hare Krishna chant is called the Maha Mantra, the great exalted mantra above all other Vedic mantras, because simply chanting the Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you? What's your name?
My name is Jose.
Jose?
This is my nephew, Maharaj.
Oh, you got a saint for an uncle. Good for you. We're hearing about the history of the universe from a very, very ancient book written in the Sanskrit language. Yeah, it's very interesting. Therefore, the Hare Krishna chant is called the Maha Mantra, the great exalted mantra above all other Vedic mantras, because simply chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra brings so many beneficial effects. As explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shikshastika 1, Cheto, Darpanamarjanam, Babamaha Davagni Nirvapanam, Shreyak Kaidavachandrika Vitaranam, Vidyabadu Jivanam, Anandam Buddhivardhanam, Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam, Sarvatmasnapadam, Padam Vijayate, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Therefore, the best performance of yajna given to us is the Sankirtan yajna. Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar Yujanti Hi Sumeda Saha. Bhagavatam 11:532. Those who are intelligent take advantage of the greatest yajna in this age by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in congregation. When the Hare Krishna mantra is chanted by many men together, the chanting is called Sankirtan. And as a result of such yajna, there will be clouds in the sky. Yagyat bhavati parjanya. In these days of drought, people can gain relief from scarcity of rain and food by the simple method of Hare Krishna yajna. Indeed, this can relieve all of human society. At present, there are droughts throughout Europe and America, and people are suffering. I mean, this was 1976. We just heard about it in the end of the last chapter, last canto. So it's been going on for a long time. At present, there are droughts throughout Europe and America, and people are suffering. But if people take this Krishna consciousness movement seriously, if they stop their sinful activities and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, all their problems will be solved without difficulty. In other processes of yajna, there are difficulties because there are no learned scholars who can chant the mantras perfectly well, nor is it possible to secure the ingredients to perform yajnas because human society is poverty-stricken and men are devoid of Vedic knowledge and the power to chant the Vedic mantras. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the only shelter. People should be intelligent enough to chant it. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. Those whose brains are dull cannot understand this chanting, nor can they take to it. Text 18. You are all self-controlled, well balanced in mind, and aware of the absolute truth. And because of austerities and penances, you are completely cleansed of all material contamination. Your words, like those of the demigods, are never baffled. Then how is it possible that your determination has failed? Purport. Your wife did it. No. Purport. We have learned from many Vedic literatures that a benediction or curse given by the demigods never proves false. By performing austerities and penances, by controlling the senses and mind, and by achieving full knowledge of the absolute truth, one is fully cleansed of material contamination. Then one's words and blessings, like those of the demigods, are never a failure. Text 19. The most powerful great-grandfather, Vashishta, after hearing these words of Manu, understood the discrepancy on the part of the priest. Thus he spoke as follows to the son of the sun god. Text 20. This discrepancy in the objective is due to your priest's deviation from the original purpose. However, by my own prowess, I shall give you a good son. Text 21. Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, after the most famous and powerful Vashishta made this decision, he offered prayers to the Supreme Person, Vishnu, to transform Ila into a male. Did this without an operation. Just text 22. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, being pleased with Vashishta, gave him the benediction he desired. Thus Ila was transformed into a very fine male named Sudyumna. 23 and 24. O King Parikshit, that hero, Sudyumna, accompanied by a few ministers and associates, and riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesh, once went into the forest to hunt. He wore armor and was decorated with bows and arrows, and he was very beautiful. While following the animals and killing them, he reached the northern part of the forest. Text 25. There in the north, at the bottom of Mount Meru, is a forest known as Sukumara, where Lord Shiva always enjoys with Uma. Sudyumna entered that forest. 26. O King Parikshit, as soon as Sudyumna, who was expert in subduing enemies, entered the forest, he saw himself transformed into a female and his horse transformed into a mare. Sounds like the opposite of Mount Athos. Text 27. You know, just off of Greece, there's an island called Athos, and they don't let any female species, even mosquitoes, go in there. 27. When his followers also saw their identities transformed and their sex reversed, they were all very morose and just looked at one another. 28. Maharaj Parikshit said, O most powerful Brahmana, why was this place so empowered? And who made it so powerful? Kindly answer this question, for I am very eager to hear about this. 29. Shukadeva Goswami answered, great saintly persons who strictly observed the spiritual rules and regulations, in whose own effulgence dissipated all the darkness of all directions, once came to see Lord Shiva in that forest. Text 30. When the goddess Ambika saw the great saintly persons, she was much ashamed, because at that time she was naked. She immediately got up from the lap of her husband and tried to cover her breast. Text 31. Seeing Lord Shiva and Parvati engaged in sexual affairs, all the great saintly persons immediately desisted from going further and departed for the ashram of Narayana. Text 32. Thereupon, just to please his wife, Lord Shiva said, any male entering this place shall immediately become a female. Text 33. Since that time no male had entered that forest, but now King Sudyumna having been transformed into a female, began to walk with his associates from one forest to another. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 2.22 it is said, Vasangsi jirnani yata vihayan, navani grinati naro parani, tata sharirani vihaya jirnani, anyani sangyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The body is just like a dress, and here this is proved. Sudyumna and his associates were all male, which means that their souls were covered by male dress. But now they became female, which means that their dress was changed. The soul, however, remains the same. It is said that by modern medical treatment, a male can be transformed into a female, and a female into a male. The body, however, has no connection with the soul. The soul can be changed either in this life or the next. The body can be changed either in this life or in the next. Therefore, one who has knowledge of the soul and how the soul migrates from one body to another does not pay attention to the body, which is nothing but a covering dress. Panditak samadarshinaha. Such a person sees the soul, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore he is a samadarshi, a learned person. Text 34. Sudyumna had been transformed into the best of beautiful women who excite sexual desire and was surrounded by other women. Upon seeing this beautiful woman loitering near his ashram, Buddha, the son of the moon, immediately desired to enjoy her. Text 35. The beautiful woman also desired to accept Buddha, the son of the king of the moon, as her husband. Thus Buddha begot in her womb a son named Pururava. Text 36. I heard from reliable sources that King Sudyumna, the son of Manu, having thus achieved femininity, remembered his familiar spiritual master, Vishishta. Text 37. Upon seeing Sudyumna's deplorable condition, Vishishta was very much aggrieved. Desiring for Sudyumna to regain his maleness, Vishishta again began to worship Lord Shankara, Shiva. Text 38 and 39. O King Parikshit, Lord Shiva was pleased with Vashishta. Therefore, to satisfy him and to keep his own word to Parvati, Lord Shiva said to that saintly person, your disciple, Sudyumna, may remain a male for 1 month and a female for the next. In this way he may rule the world as he likes. Purport. The word Gotraja is significant in this connection. Brahmanas generally act as spiritual masters of 2 dynasties. One is their disciplic succession, and the other is the dynasty born of their semen. Both descendants belong to the same Gotra, or dynasty. In the Vedic system, we sometimes find that both Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and even Vaishyas come in the disciplic succession of the same rishis. Because the Gotra and dynasty are one, there is no difference between the disciples and the family born of the semen. The same system still prevails in Indian society, especially in regard to marriage, for which the Gotra is calculated. Here the word Gotraja refers to those born in the same dynasty, whether they be disciples or members of the family. Text 40. Thus being favored by the spiritual master, according to the words of Lord Shiva, Sudyumna regained his desired maleness every alternate month, and in this way ruled the kingdom, although the citizens were not satisfied with this. Purport. The citizens could understand that the king was transformed into a female every alternate month, and therefore could not discharge his royal duty. Consequently, they were not very satisfied. Text 41. O king, Sudyumna had 3 very pious sons named Utkala, Gaya, and Vimala, who became the kings of the Dakshinapata. Text 42. Thereafter, when the time was ripe, when Sudyumna, the king of the world, was sufficiently old, he delivered the entire kingdom to his son, Pururava, and entered the forest. Purport. According to the Vedic system, one within the institution of Varna and Ashram must leave his family life after he reaches 50 years of age, Panchashat, Urdvam, Vanam Brajet. Thus, Sudyumna followed the prescribed regulations of Varnashrama by leaving the kingdom and going to the forest to complete his spiritual life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 1st chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled King Sudyumna Becomes a Woman. All right. Chapter 2. The dynasties of the sons of Manu. This second chapter describes the dynasties of the sons of Manu, headed by Karusha. After Sudyumna accepted the order of Vanaprastha and departed for the forest, Vaivasvata Manu, being desirous of sons, worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead and consequently begot 10 sons, like Maharaj Ikshvaku, all of whom were like their father. One of these sons, Brishadra, was engaged in the duty of protecting cows at night with a sword in his hand. Following the order of his spiritual master, he would stand in this way for the entire night. Once, in the darkness of night, a tiger seized a cow from the cowshed, and when Brishadra came to know this, he took a sword in his hand and followed the tiger. Unfortunately, when he finally approached the tiger, he could not distinguish between the cow and the tiger in the dark, and thus he killed the cow. Because of this, his spiritual master cursed him to take birth in a Shudra family. But Brishadra practiced mystic yoga, and in Bhakti Yoga, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he voluntarily entered a blazing forest fire, thus relinquishing his material body and going back home, back to Godhead. Kavi, the youngest son of Manu, was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from his very childhood. From Manu's son, known as Karusha, a sect of Kshatriyas, known as the Karushas, were generated. Manu also had a son known as Drishta, from whom another sect of Kshatriyas was generated. But although they were born of one who had the qualities of a Kshatriya, they became Brahmanas. From Nriga, another son of Manu, came the sons and grandsons known as Samuti, Bhuttajoti, and Basu. From Basu in succession came Pratika, and from him came Ugavan. Descending in order from the seminal dynasty of Narishanta, another son of Manu, were Chitrasena, Riksha, Midvan, Purna, Indrasena, Vidhihotra, Satyashava, Urushava, Devadatta, and Agnivesha. From the Kshatriya known as Agnivesha came the celebrated Brahmana dynasty known as Agniveshayana. From the seminal dynasty of Dishta, another son of Manu, came Nabhaga, and from him in succession came Palandana, Vatsapriti, Prangshu, Pramati, Kanitra, Chakshusha, Vimimshati, Ramba, Kaninatra, Karandama, Abhikshit, Maruta, Dama, Rajavardhana, Sudriti, Nada, Kevala, Dunduman, Vegavan, Buddha, and Trinabindu. In this way, many sons and grandsons were born in this dynasty. From Trinabindu came a daughter named Ilavila, from whom Kuvera took birth. Trinabindu also had 3 sons named Vishala, Shunyabandhu, and Dumraketu. The son of Vishala was Hemachandra. His son was Dumraksha. and his son was Samyama. The sons of Samyama were Devaja and Krishashva. Krishashva's son, Somadatta, performed an Ashwamedha sacrifice, and by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, he achieved the supreme perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, thereafter, when his son, Sudyumna, had thus gone to the forest to accept the order of Vanaprastha, Vaivaswata Manu, Shadadev, being desirous of getting more sons, performed severe austerities on the bank of the Yamuna for 100 years. Text 2. Then, because of this desire for sons, the Manu known as Shadadeva worshipped the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the demigods. Thus he got 10 sons, exactly like himself. Among them all, Ikshvaku was the eldest. Very interesting. All these personalities that we hear scattered to now we're explaining how they came about. Synonyms. Translation. Text 3. Among these sons, Prishadra, following the order of his spiritual master, was engaged as a protector of cows. He would stand all night with a sword to give the cows protection. Purport. One who becomes Virasana takes the vow to stand all night with a sword to give protection to the cows. Because Prisadra was engaged in this way, it is to be understood that he had no dynasty. We can further understand from this vow, accepted by Prisadra, how essential it is to protect the cows. Some son of a Kshatriya would take this vow to protect the cows from ferocious animals, even at night. What then is to be said of sending cow to slaughterhouses? This is the most sinful activity in human society. Text 4. Once at night, while it was raining, a tiger entered the land of the cowshed. Upon seeing the tiger, all the cows who were lying down got up in fear and scattered here and there on the land. Text 5 and 6. When the very strong tiger seized a cow, the cow screamed in distress and fear, and Prishadra, hearing the screaming, immediately followed the sound. He took up his sword, but because the stars were covered by clouds, he mistook the cow for the tiger and mistakenly cut off the cow's head with great force. Ooh, Hare Krishna. Text 7. Because the tiger's ear had been cut by the edge of the sword, the tiger was afraid, and it fled from that place while bleeding on the streets. Text 8. In the morning, when Prishadra, who was quite able to subdue his enemy, saw that he had killed the cow, although at night he thought he had killed the tiger, he was very unhappy. Text 9. Although Prishadra had committed the sin unknowingly, his family priest Vishishta cursed him, saying, "In your next life you shall not be able to become a Kshatriya. Instead, you shall take birth as a Shudra because of killing the cow." Purport. It appears that Vishishta was not free from tamoguna, the mode of ignorance. Just let the train pass. It appears that Vishishta was not free from tamoguna, the mode of ignorance. As the family priest or spiritual master of Prishadra, Vishishta should have taken Prishadra's offense very lightly, but instead Vishishta cursed him to become a Shudra. It is the duty of the family priest not to curse the disciple, but to give him relief through the performance of some sort of atonement. Vishishta, however, did just the opposite. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he was a durmati. In other words, his intelligence was not very good. Yeah. Or at least at the moment it wasn't. Text 10. When the hero Prishadra was thus cursed by his spiritual master, he accepted the curse with folded hands. Then, having controlled his senses, he took the vow of brahmacharya, which is approved by all sages. Text 11 through 13. Thereafter, Prishadra gained relief from all responsibilities, became peaceful in mind, and established control over his senses, being unaffected by material conditions, being pleased with whatever was available by the grace of the Lord to maintain body and soul together, and being equal toward everyone. He gave full attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who is the transcendental Supersoul, free from material contamination. Thus, Prishadra, fully satisfied in pure knowledge, always keeping his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, achieved pure devotional service to the Lord and began traveling all over the world without affection for material activities, as if he were deaf, dumb, and blind. Text 14. With this attitude, Prishadra became a great saint, and when he entered the forest and saw a blazing forest fire, he took this opportunity to burn his body in the fire. Thus he achieved the transcendental spiritual worlds. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, 4:9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatpataha chaktva deham punarjanma naitimam iti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Prishadra, because of his karma, was cursed to take his next birth as a Shudra, but because he took to saintly life, specifically concentrating his mind always upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he became a pure devotee. Immediately after giving up his body in the fire, he reached the spiritual world, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Mam Eti, as a result of his devotional situation. Devotional service performed by thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so powerful that although Prishadra was cursed and avoided the terrible consequence of becoming a Shudra, and instead returned back home, back to Godhead, as stated in the Brahma Samhita 5:54. Yas twindra gopam atavendra aho sakarma bandhanu rupa palabhajanam atunoti karmani nirdahati kintu chabakti bhajan govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Those who engage in devotional service are unaffected by the results of their material activities. Otherwise, everyone, from the smallest microbe up to the king of heaven Indra, is subject to the laws of karma. A pure devotee, being always engaged in the service of the Lord, is exempt from these laws. Go to the, check the thermostat and see if it's turned on, because I think somebody turned it off.
What would you like it set to?
Just put it cool, auto, cool. Text 15. Being reluctant to accept material enjoyment, Manu's youngest son, whose name was Kavi, gave up the kingdom before attaining full youth. Accompanied by his friends, he went to the forest, always thinking of the self-effulgent Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart. Thus he attained perfection. So you can see by all these stories, whether they be catastrophe or not, the goal of the whole culture was to perfect one's life and go back to Godhead. Mm-hmm. That was the goal of the Vedic culture. Whatever the duties were, whatever the kind of situation they got themselves in, they would work towards. Yeah, but it's supposed to be not working, but you have to get a key, and there's no key here. But let's continue. We will tolerate. I mean, if these guys can tolerate for whatever they did for how many hundreds of years, we can tolerate a little heat for a few minutes. Okay, text 16. From Kurusha, another son of Manu, came the Karusha dynasty, a family of Kshatriyas. The Karusha Kshatriyas were the kings in the northern direction. They were celebrated protectors of Brahminical culture and were all firmly religious. Text 17. From the son of Manu came Drishta. From the son of Manu named Drishta came a Kshatriya caste called Darshtra, whose members achieved the position of Brahmanas in this world. Then, from the son of Manu named Nriga came Sumati. From Sumati came Bhuta Jyoti, and from Bhuta Jyoti came Vasu. Purport. Here it is said, Kshatram Brahma Bhuyam Gatam Chitao. Although the Darshtras belonged to the Kshatriya caste, they were able to convert themselves into Brahmanas. This gives clear evidence supporting the following statement by Narada, Bhagavatam 7:11-35. Yasya yalakshanam proktam pungso varna biyanjakam yad anyatra pidushyeta tat tenaiva minirdishet. If the qualities of one group are found in the men of another, those men should be recognized by their qualities, by their symptoms, not by the caste of the family in which they were born. Birth is not at all important. It is one's qualities that are stressed in all Vedic literature. And it's because of the degradation of this principle that now in India the caste system is prevalent and there's inequality everywhere. Text 18. The son of Vasu was Pratika, whose son was Ogavan. Ogavan's son was also known as Ogavan, and his daughter was Ogavati. Sudarshana married that daughter. Text 19. From Narishanta came a son named Chitrasena, and from him a son named Riksha. From Riksha came Midvan, from Midvan came Purna, and from Purna came Indrasena. Text 20. From Indrasena came Vitihotra. From Vitihotra came Satyashava. From Satyashava came a son named Urushrava, and from Urushrava came Devadatta. Text 21. From Devadatta came his son known as Agnivesha, who was the fire god Agni himself. This son, who was a celebrated saint, was well known as Kanina and Jatukarnya. Purport. Agnivesha was also known as Kanina and Jatukarnya. Text 22. O king, from Agnivesha came a Brahminical dynasty known as Agniveshayana. Now that I have described the descendants of Narishanta, let me describe the descendants of Dishta. Please hear from me. Text 23 and 24. Dishta had a son named Nabhaga. This Nabhaga, who was different from the Nabhaga described later, became a Vaishya by occupational duty. The son of Nabhaga was known as Balandana. The son of Balandana was Vatsapriti, and his son was Prangshu. Prangshu's son was Pramati. Pramati's son was Kanitra. Kanitra's son was Chakshusha, and his son was Vimingshati. Purport. From Manu, one son became a Kshatriya, another a Brahmana, and another a Vaishya. This confirms the statement by Narada Muni, Yasya yal lakshanam proktam pungso varna biyanjakam. Bhagavatam 7:11-35. One should always remember that Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas should never be regarded as members of a caste by birth. A Brahmana may be changed into a Kshatriya, and a Kshatriya into a Brahmana. Similarly, a Brahmana or Kshatriya may be changed into a Vaishya, and a Vaishya into a Brahmana or Kshatriya. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarnya maya shishtam gunakarma vibhagajaha. So one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya, never by birth, but by quality. There is a great need of Brahmanas. Therefore, in the Krishna consciousness movement, we are trying to train some Brahmanas to guide human society. Because at present there is a scarcity of Brahmanas. The brain of human society is lost. Because practically everyone is a Shudra, no one at the present moment can guide the members of society to the proper path by which to achieve perfection in life. And we can see the practical example of that, the Senate. They're supposed to be the Brahmanas advising the president or the king. And they've got no idea what to do. Therefore, chaos. No head. Text 25. The son of Vingshati. The son of Vingshati was Ramba, whose son was the great religious king, Kaninetra. O king, the son of Kaninetra was King Karandama. 26. From Karandama came a son named Abhikshit, and from Abhikshit a son named Maruta, who was the emperor. The great mystic, Samvarta, the son of Angira, engaged Maruta in performing a sacrifice, yajna. Text 27. The sacrificial paraphernalia of King Maruta was extremely beautiful, for everything was made of gold. Indeed, no other sacrifice could compare to his. 28. In that sacrifice, King Indra became intoxicated by drinking a large quantity of somarasa. The Brahmanas received ample contributions, and therefore they were satisfied. For that sacrifice, the various demigods who controlled the winds offered foodstuffs, and the Vishwadevas were members of the assembly. Purport. Because of the yajna performed by Maruta, everyone was pleased, especially the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. Brahmanas are interested in receiving contributions as priests, and Kshatriyas are interested in drinking. All of them, therefore, were satisfied with their different engagements. And we'll stop there for the readings. It's now 7:33. And very interesting snapshot we get from these chapters of what the Vedic culture was like in real time. You know? And how everyone's nature was satisfied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everyone cooperated together. And when they didn't, it caused confusion, even then, and why there's so confusion today. You look like a student going to school, or maybe going away from school. Is it? Here, help him with his hand. He's got to give me his thing first. Look, come on. Yeah, okay. See ya. See you next time. Hare Krishna. Tamal Gopal Baba. Okay, open mic time. Yes, Bhakti Chris.
Love these passages. I have one question, and please forgive me if I mispronounce the name. Prasada?
Prasadra.
Prashadra. I was very curious in knowing when he decided to go into the fire to let go of his body and transition. At that time, he was already doing sacrifices, yog, and I believe he was already a devotee, maybe even. My question is, did the fire purify him, or was he already purified?
Well, see, here's the thing. When a person comes to that stage of spiritual advancement, to him, air and fire and consequences and time and effect are all the same. Hell and heaven, They're all the same. So he was already liberated.
I see.
So therefore he just, walked into the fire and then he went back to Godhead. There's a nice verse in the Gita that just touches on this. It's in the 5th chapter. Karoti. Boy, am I going to be able to remember where this is. Huh? 8 and 9? That's what I thought. I thought it was 8. Oh, I skipped a page. Yeah, you're right. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit pashan shrinvan sprishan jigran ashnan gachchan supan shwasan pralaban bishrijan grinan unmishan nimishan napi indriyan indriyartishu vartan da itidarayan. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening and closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. So a person who is extremely advanced in a liberated stage, he doesn't notice what the body is doing. Inside himself, he is engaged in Krishna consciousness.
Perfect, thank you.
And his body goes through the things that it has to go through by the modes of nature, and it goes on automatically, and he's aloof from it completely.
Thank you.
Rarely achieved stage, but it's possible. The pure devotees of Lord Chaitanya, they're not really interested in those kinds of mystic perfections. They're interested in the mission of Lord Chaitanya, which means to chant and to chant with others and to hear the Bhagavatam and to deliver others. They're more concerned with others than they are their own selves. Mm-hmm. But the effect is the same. And by the way, I was listening today to Prabhupada and Gopi Puranathan Prabhu, and they were both of them making the points that Krishna never says that there's no happiness or distress. He says we're equal. A devotee becomes equal in both. So even there may be pain, there may be disease, or there may be opulence, there may be elation, and all these things. But as a devotee becomes more advanced and detached from the modes of material nature, those things don't disturb him, even they may be there. First of all, they're reduced, in intensity by his spiritual Krishna consciousness and by the grace of the Super Soul, and his service goes on under any condition, no matter how he feels. He continues his service. That's what it means by being equipoised. Not that we sit there and we don't feel anything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The pain or the pleasure may be reduced in order to facilitate us. Mm-hmm. But we become equipoised by continuing our service under all conditions, always thinking of Krishna, always offering obeisance to him, always serving and trying to help others.
Thank you.
Yes, Bhakti Doug. Take us further.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
As a reflection to that same story of Prashadha, it was it's another circumstance where we see some seemingly unfortunate event take place in someone's life. He accidentally killed the cow rather than the tiger and was cursed for it, and what appears to be some sort of misfortune ends up being the impetus for him to seek spiritual enlightenment and go inside, and then at the end of life he actually goes back to the spiritual world. So we hear a lot of those stories throughout.
Yeah. Nriga was a king that gave so much charity you could not count it. He gave so many cows away to brahmanas you could not count the cows, like waves of the river. He was giving cows away to brahmanas. And then one day, one cow just accidentally wandered into the herd of another cow that he had given away. And so the one brahmana noticed that, and he said, "Wait a second, that's my cow." And then the king gave it to me. No, I said he gave it to me. And so they started to argue. They came to the king. And the king said, "Anyway, don't worry, I'll give each one of you 1,000 cows in return for that one cow." No, we want this cow, because you gave this cow to us. And in that way, even brahmanas could become unreasonable. In other words, if you follow the rules and regulations too rigidly, there's a verse, what is that verse? I think it's in the Upanishadamrita. Utyahara, give me the verse. Utyahara praschaiva, chaiva, prajalpa, niyamagraha, janasanyasya salgaya. Now this niyamagraha is the word we're trying to explain, understand. If you follow the rules just for the sake of following them, not for the sake of actually making spiritual advancement, not knowing what you're doing, but you're following very strictly, then that's a cause of fall down. At the same time, neglecting the rules and acting whimsically is a cause of fall down. So it's kind of the moral of these kinds of stories that happen in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam explains everything, what to do, what not to do. What's the result of doing anything properly? What's the result of doing things improperly, even within the Vedic culture? So it's not that there's some utopia, okay, now I'm Krishna conscious, and everywhere I go there's going to be bells ringing and flowers falling from the sky, and the rocks are going to turn into cushions, and I'll never stub my toe, and I'll never bruise myself. Everything's going to be just, in the material world, it's just not possible. So therefore that misconception is also exposed by the Srimad-Bhagavatam to show how even Vashishta is a very exalted soul. I mean, Vashishta was the one that took Lord Rama, to the place where the sages were having sacrifice, and one demon was always ruining it. And Rama was a young prince. He wasn't so experienced, but he knew who he was. And this demon was really formidable, and he was really killing priests and sages and ruining sacrifices left and right. So it's never in the material world, it's never a bed of roses. It's never utopia. You should not expect life to become utopia, even in the Krishna consciousness movement. There's a famous letter, we call it the Utopia letter, that Prabhupada wrote. Should I read it? I could. Why not? Why don't you read it? Oh, okay. Now I have to just find it. It won't take but a second, because I know exactly where it is. Okay, correspondence, 1972. February 4th, Atreya Rishi. My dear Atreya Rishi, okay, please accept my blessings. This is Prabhupada. This is a letter from Prabhupada to Atreya Rishi. I am in due receipt of your very nice letter of January 10th, 1972. This is February 4th. He is writing it, and he received on January 10th. It was written. So Prabhupada was doing everything by snail mail. There was no internet. There were no cell phones. Can you imagine? Were you alive since there was internet? Do you know what it's like not to be there now? Can you remember? Just at the edge. Just at the edge. Okay. It is not so much that because there may be some fault in our God brothers and God sisters, or because there may be some mismanagement or lack of cooperation, that this is due to being impersonalists, because that was his statement. Atriya Rishi made this statement. No, it is the nature of the living condition to always have some fault. It is even in the spiritual world, there is some fault and envy. Sometimes the gopis will quarrel over Krishna's favor. And once Krishna was so much attracted to Radharani that by mistake he tried to milk the bull instead of the cow. And sometimes when the gopis used to put on their dresses and makeup for seeing Krishna, they would be too much hasty and smear kumkum and mascara in the wrong places. And their ornaments and dresses would appear as if small children had been trying to dress themselves, and they were not very expert like that. See, they're actually the most expert. The gopis are the most expert at doing all these things, but they become sometimes so ecstatic, like Krishna became so ecstatic seeing Radharani when, tried to milk the bull instead of the cow. There are so many examples, but it's not the same as material faults or material envy. It is transcendental because it is all based on Krishna. Sometimes when one gopi would serve Krishna very nicely, the others would say, "Oh, she has done so nicely, now let me do better for pleasing Krishna." That is envy, but it is transcendental, without malice. This is a fantastic letter, huh? So we shall not expect that anywhere there is any utopia. Rather, that is impersonalism. People should not expect that even in the Krishna consciousness society there will be utopia. Because devotees are persons, therefore there will always be some lacking. But the difference is that they're lacking because they have given up everything to serve Krishna. Money, jobs, reputation, wealth, big educations, everything. Their lackings have become transcendental because, despite everything they may do, their topmost intention is to serve Krishna. One who is engaged in devotional service despite the most abominable action is to be considered saintly because he is rightly situated. The devotees of Krishna are the most exalted persons on this planet, better than kings, all of them. So we should always remember this, and like the bumblebees, always look for the nectar or the best qualities of a person. Not like the utopians, who are like the flies, who always go to the open sores or find the faults in a person. And we do that to ourselves, what to speak of others. And because they cannot find any utopia, or because they cannot find anyone without faults, they want to become void, merge, nothing. They think that is utopia, to become void of personality. So if there is sometimes slight disagreements between devotees, it is not due to impersonalism, but because they are persons. But it is because they are persons. And such disagreements should not be taken very seriously. The devotee is always pessimistic about the material world, but he is very optimistic about the spiritual life. So in this way, you should consider that anyone engaged in Krishna's service is the best, always the best person. I am very pleased that you are assisting your godbrothers so nicely. Yes, this is our real position, to be servants of the servants of the servants. And by your quiet and humble attitude, you shall set the example of Vaishnava, so that all may learn from you, and very soon their puffed up attitude will disappear. He's talking about the GBC. This letter was a complaint about the GBC. Prabhupada's so expert. Very soon their puffed up attitude will disappear, and they will come to you and ask your advice in matters. I am also encouraged that you are preaching to so many businessmen, acquaintances. That is very important work. So speak to them very frankly and with strength and conviction, and they will see that even you are yourself a big businessman with high position and salary. Still, you are a devotee, and they will also become devotees if you ask them. And if only a few of such big businessmen become devotees, they can change the whole world. So it is a very great and responsible task. Now do it very boldly, and Krishna will reward you with all success. The secret is to engage everyone, even big businessmen. So at first, engage them in some small way so that they will not feel threatened, but they will enjoy that small service very much. The secret is to engage everyone, even big businessmen. So at first, engage them in some small way so that they will not feel threatened, but that they will enjoy that small service so much, automatically they will desire for more. And then gradually, you convince them by strong arguments and engage them more and more, and then they will perfect their lives in Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead. I hope you will meet you in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And that's how Prabhupada spread the movement and managed the movement through snail mail for so many years and built it up. And it helped because devotees would have all these things and it's like they'd have to wait. Not like, we get instantaneous thing and then somebody says an instantaneous thing and then it causes a spontaneous combustion of things, and then all of a sudden there's a new site that appears on the internet and blaspheming and finding every little thing wrong and da 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 da, on and on and on. Hare Krishna. Haribol. That's why in this age we have this kind of, not those of us who've been around long enough to have been most of our lives without the internet, but yeah. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Do we have something from the internet?
Hannah's from last night.
Yes, I'd like to hear Hannah's from last night and whatever else she's got to offer.
This
is from Hannah last night.
From Hannah's last night.
Okay, Hannah, here it goes. I hope you're tuned in. I haven't given up. Well, not too late. Okay.
She says, Hare Krishna, Guru Dev. Do you feel it is difficult for you to be worshipped by your disciples as equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Oh my God! No wonder Krishna caused it to get lost in the Ethernet. Go ahead.
That was the question.
It's impossible. Not only is it difficult, it's impossible. At least for me.
And then she has also
Therefore, I always try to present Prabhupada. And whatever I say, I try to say what Prabhupada told me. And that way I try to just be simple and transparent, and I don't generally get into, esoteric thoughts and such complex philosophical discussions, because it sometimes confuses people. And but the thing is, what makes it, for me, what makes it tolerable is when I offer whatever it is that somebody thinks about me to Prabhupada direct, inside myself. Pass it on. If you don't pass it on, it builds up and it'll crush you. And it will convince you that you're something you're not.
Also,
imagine how great Prabhupada was, because he took Guru Puja every day. Every day. That's not normal. In the disciplic succession, normally the Guru takes Guru Puja once a year on his birthday. But he did this because he knew how fallen we were and how difficult it was to maintain the proper attitude. And it's kind of like he sacrificed himself into that fire, you know, and then wrote these letters, you know, thousands of letters like this he wrote to keep everybody cool-headed and, you know, properly, seeing everything properly and going forward properly. So, the essence of her question, Hannah's question, yes, it is to receive service from others, devotion from others, as a service is the most difficult thing to do. Therefore, we shouldn't take that responsibility lightly, and we shouldn't take it to an extent that we are not capable of handling it. And what I mean by that is, if the fire of one's devotional service, if the intensity of the fire of our bhakti is not hot enough to burn the reactions of others, like if somebody touches your feet, you take reactions from that person. That's why generally we don't allow it, unless the person is initiated disciple. Then we'll allow that to happen. Sometimes Prabhupada would do it out of either he couldn't avoid it, or just out of, you know, complete causeless mercy. But generally, you avoid that. And if you take too many disciples, Rupa Goswami, there's a verse that says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that says that one should not take too many disciples. That's what it means. What too many disciples is different for each person. If a person, some spiritual masters may only want one. Some don't even want any. I mean, Narottam Das Thakur had to, you know, like beg and beg and beg and serve and serve and serve without the spiritual master even knowing who was doing the service for more than a year before he finally figured out that something was doing some service. Then he found out who it was, and then he said, no, I don't take any. And then Bhaktisiddhanta and Gorkashore Das Babaji, he wasn't taking any disciples. And then because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the greatest scholar of his day, period, you know, and his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, told him, you take initiation from Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj, who was in his secular life, or his before he became a Babaji, he was a grain merchant, and he didn't know, he was illiterate. He didn't know how to write his name. He had to put, for legal documents, he had to put his fingerprint. In India, there's many people like that. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came to Gorkashore Das Babaji and he asked for initiation, and he said no. And he went back to his father. He said, you know, you can't come back into this house unless you take initiation from Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj. So he went again, and he asked, and he said, how can I initiate you? You're a great learned scholar, an elevated person. I'm just a nobody. It's not right. It's not normal. It's not natural. He went back, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur just drew the line, you know. Then he went back again, and then Gorkashore Das Babaji says, I'll ask Mahaprabhu. So then he went away and he came back again, and he said, what did he say? He said no. So this went on for a long time, and finally, I mean, the story goes, I don't remember if this is actually completely correct, but the story goes that they were on that bridge between Navadvip and, I don't know if it was that bridge, but they were someplace, and anyway, I don't know about the physical situation, but then, you know, Bhaktisiddhanta said, okay, if you won't give me shelter, then I'm not going to live, I'm going to just, you know. And then he said, oh, all right, and then he gave him initiation. But he was his only disciple. So some gurus will take only one, some will take none, Some will take 60,000. And then we read, what was it we read? I don't remember whether it was, I'm getting confused from here and when I read in the morning. There's one purport where Prabhupada said, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, that's the answer to that question. Hare Krishna. What else?
She says, also a side note from today's reading, but sometimes the mind is our enemy, and sometimes the mind can be our friend. It's easier to understand you're not your mind when it's harassing you like anything, with things you don't even want to feel or think. But when it's helping you in discharging your duties, it's very difficult to see that it is not us, but rather a tool. If you can't tell, I'm bewildered. Last night I had a dream that Maya came to me in her personal form and was harassing me about breaking the regulative principles, and I asked her, why do you do this? And basically she said that she cannot bother me if I am doing devotional service. Are these 2 points related?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. If you actually become... sometimes we'll read something and then we'll dream about it, and it won't actually be that personality or whatever. It'll be our own mind, concocting something to harass us, to hassle us sometimes. Sometimes it's the real thing. It depends on the person and the circumstances. But generally speaking, those kinds of dreams are instructive. Maya will become our maidservant if we become fully Krishna conscious. Because Maya is a pure devotee of Krishna. So her service to Krishna is to keep us in illusion. That's her duty. But because she's a pure devotee of Krishna, if she sees someone that's actually no longer interested, then she becomes the servant of that person. And so that same mind will help you. Like she mentioned in that question, that sometimes it's a tool, and it is a tool to be used in Krishna service. And in that way it's a friend, and it will not contaminate you. If you actually give yourself to Krishna and serve Krishna all the time, whether you're perfect at it or not, Maya cannot touch you. That's what I heard. That's what I read. Maya will not be able to touch you. So we can only, imagine what that would be like, to have Maya as our maidservant and have her helping us at every step along the way. That's a very elevated position. But by hearing the Bhagavatam and hearing all these different situations that arise in the history of the universe and how it's dealt with and how everything's reconciled, what to speak of just since Prabhupada came in our movement, and seeing how he dealt, that letter, how he dealt with such an awkward situation where somebody that's just been appointed GBC is criticizing the GBC, and Prabhupada had to come in and, sort it out. Such instructive, such deep, instructive, helpful letters, purports. That's why I'm convinced if we do this every day, even sometimes it may be hard to sit down and hear so intensely for an hour. It's very intense. It's easier to go out to a party. But this is extremely important. We have to do both. The Nam Sankirtan, as it purifies the hearts, we'll want to do this. Spontaneously we'll want to do this. And then when you start to get a taste for it, then the kirtan gets even higher and nicer, and everything will come. There will become a tipping point, mark my word. This what we're doing here, this yatra, of making this ashram, and making full-time devotees, which has never been done in this yatra before, there will be a tipping point. And at that tipping point, it'll grow faster than you can imagine. We just keep doing this morning program and this evening program every day, and in the meantime go out and distribute these books, try to meet people, try to bring them in, and welcome them and treat them with love and affection, and by, I would say, 2 years, 3 years, 30 devotees in temple, ecstatic kirtan every morning, and everything will change. The yatra will become diversified. That is our hope. And it's more than just this yatra, it's a big thing. According to my godbrothers who are leading preachers in the movement, they find out what's going on here, and they're all giving us their blessings. Yes.
One last question. It's by Rati. She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. In this regard, knowing that it is difficult for a guru to handle worship, does that mean that the disciple should restrain him or herself in showing devotion/praise so as not to burden one's guru? Would that be considerate or presumptuous? Or question mark?
It depends. It depends on the individual. It depends on the circumstances. Sometimes the disciple will overdo it, and make the spiritual master feel uncomfortable, and in that case it may not be the best thing to do. But in that case we rely on the direction. Sometimes when Prabhupada was in a place and a devotee, out of attachment for Prabhupada, they'd kind of come and hang out in his room and want to get them, the personal association, this and that and the other thing. And Prabhupada would sometimes look at him and say, "What are you doing today?" and he would say, "Why don't you do something? Do some service and practical service. We're just coming looking at me. What is this?" So in that case, he was feeling uncomfortable by that, overflow of so-called devotion was just probably just sentiment. I mean, I'll give you a little preview of coming attractions here. I've got something I'm going to read that I read from Prabhupada at my birthday day, and it goes like this. Prabhupada, yes, that you have to prove. You can eulogize your Guru Maharaj, but you have to learn it and face the public and be strong to defend yourself. That is success, not by praising your Guru Maharaj. You'll praise your Guru Maharaj, that is not very difficult. But be victorious to the opposing elements. Then you will praise your Guru Maharaj nicely. At home, you can praise your Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj be satisfied. Oh, my disciples are praising me. That is good, respectful. That is the qualification. But you have to fight. Then your Guru Maharaj will be glorified. That's the answer to the question. Okay, I stop here. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ninth Canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Same time, tomorrow's Saturday. We'll see you at 4:30 Central Time, USA, here in Radha Lane at the live studios of daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.